A woman's body reveals truths her mouth would never dare to say. And this is where most men fail. They trust words. They cling to speech. They analyze every sentence as if the answer were there, plain and clear. But the truth is more brutal. You don't lose a woman because you're ugly, shy, or inexperienced. You lose her because you can't read her body. And she notices. She notices when you ignore the obvious. She notices when you hesitate in front of a wide-open signal. She notices when you look but don't see. The modern man's first prison is the fear of misinterpreting. He fears approaching and being rejected. He fears believing a smile meant something when, in his mind, it meant nothing. He fears acting and seeming invasive. He fears retreating and seeming cowardly. In this territory of fear, her every gesture becomes a riddle. Every look becomes a maze. Every silence becomes a threat. This man lives behind his own destiny. He only understands she was interested when she's already leaving. He only realizes he should have advanced when the opportunity has vanished. Carl Jung said the unconscious expresses itself through symbols. Body language is exactly that, a symbol, an expression of what she feels without filter, without softening, without negotiation. A woman rarely tells you directly what she feels. Not to manipulate you, but because the feminine psyche doesn't operate in a direct way. Her body delivers what she hasn't put into words. The body delivers intention. The body delivers curiosity. The body delivers desire. Body reading is the key that unlocks her unconscious. Without this language, you walk in the dark. The power of this skill lies in a truth no one taught you. When you read her body, you control the rhythm of the interaction. You know when to advance without seeming desperate. You know when to step back without seeming weak. You know when to disappear because she's not ready, and when to appear because she's inviting you without realizing it. Body reading doesn't make you a manipulator. It makes you someone who finally understands the game already being played, even if you were unaware. Reading her body is reclaiming the power you lost trying to guess emotions from words. Science confirms what men have long felt. Albert Mehrabian demonstrated most emotional communication isn't verbal. Emotional impact lies far more in tone of voice and body language than in words. What she says can confuse. What her body does reveals. When you rely only on speech, you ignore 70% of what's actually being communicated. And while you operate at this shallow level, another man who reads simple signals passes you easily. He advances at the right moment. He steps back at the right moment. He interprets what you did not see. Today, I'll show you how to unlock this vision. I'll show you real, observable, consistent signals so you stop depending on luck, guessing, or hope. I'll show you how to decode the female body with precision. To act before the opportunity expires. To act when her body says yes, even if her mouth still says maybe. Reading a woman's body isn't a luxury. It's emotional survival. And after this video, you'll never walk blind again. The mistake that leaves you blind is listening only to what she says and ignoring what she does. The greatest male blindness isn't from lack of opportunity, but from inability to see the obvious. The insecure man clings to a woman's words as if they were maps of truth. He listens when she says she's not looking for anyone, but ignores that she keeps getting closer. He believes her when she says she's shy, but doesn't notice the spark in her eyes when he speaks. He takes speech as reality and dismisses behavior as if the body were a detail. This error makes him seem socially out of sync. He reacts to the narrative instead of the movement. He accepts the surface and loses what's underneath. The practical application is direct. In every interaction, ask yourself a silent question. Does her body confirm or contradict what she's saying? A large part of a woman's emotional attitude never passes through words. Human communication is essentially nonverbal, and women from a very early age learn to be subtle in speech to avoid judgment, conflict, and exposure. Therefore, their body becomes the most honest channel. While the mouth rationalizes, the body reveals. While the mouth softens, the body confesses. The truth lives in the microgesture. Distance, torso orientation, hand position, eye direction. All of this speaks before any sentence. The practical application is simple but powerful. Observe the body first, only then the words. Torso direction is worth more than a polite smile. Restless hands say more than 1,000 explanations. The gaze says everything she doesn't have the courage to verbalize. Interest doesn't reveal itself in the obvious. Many men think interest is a smile, a laugh, or a compliment. These are the most superficial layers. Desire reveals itself in far more subtle, bodily, consistent signals. Her body slightly leaning toward you. Her feet pointing at you even when she's talking to someone else. Her head tilted to catch what you say. Almost accidental touches that repeat. These signals don't shout. They whisper. That's why many men ignore them. The practical application is the most important rule of body reading. One isolated signal is noise. 3 repeated signals are a pattern. Jeffrey Hall from the University of Kansas mapped flirting styles and discovered gestures like leaning in, crossing legs toward the man, playing with objects, or touching hair appear repeatedly in attraction. The average man sees this and thinks it's coincidence. He thinks it's distraction, shyness, or habit. He never considers it was the invitation. And when he realizes, the moment is gone. The practical application is to remember the exact moment you thought it was coincidence. It wasn't. You just didn't know what to look for. To transform this reading into real skill, there's a simple method called the 5-second scan. It works like an instant X-ray of female intention. First, observe the feet and torso for body direction. Then, observe the hands, noticing if they're tense or relaxed. Next, observe the face for micro-expressions and the natural duration of a smile. That's all you need in the first moments. The daily exercise is even simpler. Practice this scan in any environment without acting, just observing. Train your eyes before training your approach. That way, when the real opportunity appears, you won't hesitate. You'll see eyes, hands, and distance. The hidden triangle of female desire. There are moments when the interaction seems stable, but her body sends almost imperceptible signals of withdrawal. Small steps back, a few centimeters of distance, arms crossing, torso turning slightly outward. None of this is accidental. These micro-gestures are protection mechanisms, ways for her unconscious to regain control when she feels you're advancing faster than she can handle. The man who insists, who keeps the same pace, who ignores these silent warnings, loses control without understanding why. The practical application is precise. When you notice any bodily retreat, stop the escalation. Change the subject. Reduce intensity. Adjust the atmosphere. When she feels safe again, her body will reopen the path. The gaze is the most honest territory of human desire. Research by Mylène Bolmont in 2014 showed gaze patterns change with real interest. It's not an intense stare, but the look that goes away, diverts, and returns. It's the gaze that scans the face, returns to the mouth, and quickly slides to parts of the body before rising again. The body speaks through the eyes. Desire reveals itself in the intervals. When a woman maintains eye contact, looks away, and comes back, especially with a micro-smile she tries to hide, her unconscious is showing curiosity. The practical application: don't run from that look. Hold yours firmly without aggression. The gaze that stays creates tension, and tension creates depth. Female touch is rarely explicit. A woman almost never hugs you too early or grabs your hand without context. What she does are sensory tests, calculated approximations, small touches that seem innocent. The unnecessary brush. The hand that touches your arm when she laughs. Not pulling away when you lightly bump in the same space. These gestures are codes. The insecure man's error is interpreting everything as accident or coincidence. He doesn't know how to differentiate accidental touch from permissive touch. The accidental one is quick, tense, followed by immediate withdrawal. The permissive one lingers a second longer or appears more than once. If she doesn't withdraw, she permits. If she repeats, she invites. Behavioral research shows a consistent pattern. Women use far more nonverbal signals than verbal ones to show interest. While the man tries to impress with words, she demonstrates with proximity. While the man displays dominance with broad gestures, she reveals attraction with lightness, inclination, and nearness. The practical application is simple. If she naturally approaches, orients her body toward you, and allows subtle contact without discomfort, she's opening the emotional access channel. Her body is testing if you notice. To act with safety and precision, There's a fundamental rule called the rule of 3 greens. Before advancing, you need 3 green lights from her body. First, the gaze. She maintains eye contact, looks away, and returns. Second, the body, oriented toward you without abrupt retreats. Third, proximity. She tolerates or creates situations of light touch. If these 3 signals are green, you have permission to advance calmly. If only one appears, wait. If 2 appear, observe more. If all 3 appear together, you have the exact moment opportunity manifests. The man who knows how to act at the right moment is rarely forgotten. Now, if you want to master body reading at a level most men will never reach, there is a step beyond. In the Code of Seduction, this skill is broken down with surgical depth. There you find complete maps of feminine nonverbal language, flirting models based on real psychology, social dynamics, and evolutionary behavior. You learn advanced techniques, not in free videos. Posture adjustments that change your perceived value, gaze patterns that create tension, timing exercises that build internal confidence, and conscious physical escalation structures that make a woman feel guided, not pressured. It's knowledge that redefines how you read and influence a social environment. If you want to master this at an advanced level, the link is in the description and the pinned comment. When the body says yes and the mouth still says maybe, there's a critical moment when the man feels something is happening but doesn't know what to do. He sees positive signals but hesitates. He feels she's receptive but waits for a verbal invitation that never comes. This silent hesitation, this internal request for explicit permission, makes him seem insecure in her eyes. A woman feels when a man doesn't assume the role of leading. She senses the doubt, the fear, the waiting, and when she feels she must do the emotional work for the man, desire starts to fade. The practical application is clear. Her body gives you the permission her mouth will not. Interpreting signals and leading is your role, not an act of boldness. Female dynamics are deeply shaped by biological safety mechanisms. For thousands of years, women needed to assess risk before approaching emotionally or physically. That's why they don't say yes directly. They test. They approach and withdraw. They release and pull back. They observe how you react to each microvariation of proximity. Not to confuse you, but to feel if you're emotionally stable. A soft nonverbal retreat may simply be a test, an unconscious request to verify your maturity, calmness, and consistency. The practical application is this. Only interpret rejection when her body truly closes. Don't treat every oscillation as a definitive no. The female body oscillates for many reasons unrelated to lack of interest. Environment, people around, sudden insecurity, nervousness, memories, social context. A woman may like you and still close off for seconds. She may lean in, retreat, then come close again. The unprepared man sees this as contradiction. The mature man sees it as trend, and trend is what matters. If the overall direction is closeness, if positive signals reappear, if her body reopens after a brief closure, you're on the right path. The practical application: read the curve, not the isolated point. Science confirms why this male difficulty happens. Researcher Jeffrey A. Hall in 2015 showed most people are terrible at identifying when they're being flirted with, especially men. They underestimate female interest because they expect absolute clarity in a language that is subtle by nature. It's not incompetence. It's lack of training. And training is exactly what you're gaining here. The practical application is liberating. Stop believing you're bad at this. The mistake wasn't you. It was your mental model of reading. To transform this reading into real action, there is microescalation. It's the safest and most efficient method to advance without scaring her, seeming desperate, or crossing boundaries. You slightly increase proximity. You maintain eye contact 1 second longer. You use a light touch and then retreat. Observe. Always observe. If her body remains open, you go up 1 step. If she moves closer, you go up another. If she moves away a little, you stabilize. Seduction isn't a leap. It's a gradient. It's rhythm. It's continuous reading. When you master this cadence, her body shows you exactly where to go. Her body says yes long before her mouth. That's why the man who knows how to interpret never has to force anything. He simply follows what's already being offered. In conclusion, reading her body is reclaiming your power. There's a truth no man should ignore. As long as you don't learn to read a woman's body, you'll always be playing in the dark. You'll advance too early, scaring her. You'll advance too late, losing the moment. You'll hesitate when you should act, and act when you should observe. Body reading isn't a detail of seduction. It's the foundation that separates the man who reacts from the man who leads. The first lives guessing. The second controls the rhythm. The first depends on her goodwill. The second is guided by the silent truth she's already communicating. Reading her body is leaving improvisation and entering the territory of control. Jordan Peterson speaks about individual responsibility as the turning point of male maturity. This applies perfectly here. Reading a woman's body is taking responsibility for your social perception. It's stopping blaming women for mixed signals, stopping blaming shyness, stopping blaming fate. It's recognizing that feminine body language is rich, deep, and obvious when you know where to look. Reading her body is abandoning the passive posture of the man who waits for verbal confirmation and adopting the active posture of the man who interprets reality. The responsibility is yours, and that's liberating because it means you can train, evolve, adjust, and become socially sharp. The real gain of this skill is immediate. You reduce unnecessary rejection because you see when she's not open before exposing yourself. You reduce regret because you identify when she's interested before the moment escapes. You lead the interaction with confidence because you understand the emotional rhythm her body is giving you. Reading the female body eliminates the anxiety of guessing, eliminates the paralysis of making mistakes, eliminates the fear of the unknown. You begin to act with precision, awareness, and control. Seduction stops being luck and becomes skill. Don't be mistaken. Body reading isn't a cheap trick. It isn't manipulation. It isn't theatrics. It's social intelligence. It's refined masculine sensitivity. It's the ability to perceive nuances most men have never trained. When you master this, the game changes completely. You stop being the man who tries to imagine what she wants. You become the man who sees what she actually feels. And for those who want to go further, there's a deeper, more structured, and more advanced territory, the code of seduction. That you don't just learn to read signals. You learn the complete system of feminine nonverbal language. You learn to interpret tests, understand signals of interest and disinterest, adjust your frame, escalate physically with awareness, calibrate posture, gaze, and timing. These aren't loose tips. They're structured techniques based on real psychology, behavioral studies, and modern social dynamics. It's the mechanism that transforms body reading into actionable power. It's what differentiates ordinary men from men capable of creating desire, connection, and impact like few others can. If you want to leave the amateur level and truly master the game, the link is in the description and the pinned comment. From here on, you no longer walk in the dark. You read. You understand. You act.